Hello, class. Welcome to week 4. This week we'll have readings from Citizen Part 2 and Part 3. This week I want to remind you that there will be a video that's attached to your D2L shell entitled Be Angry by Hennessy Young that I hope that you have a chance to watch. And also to read the article that talks a little bit about the angry black woman stereotype. I think that these two things will definitely add to your reading this week as you are trying to get through Citizen 2 and 3. But today I want to talk to you about, can black people be angry? So, can black people be angry? Nobody likes to talk about anger. Indeed, it's often looked upon as a weakness. And even worse, sometimes it seems like it's even worse if it's coming from a black person. And black people sometimes are characterized as angry, and that black anger is deemed as something that's wrong, unreasonable, misplaced, or misguided. Anger at having endured oppression sanctioned by the government has been flicked off, and black people have been told to just get over it. But how can black people not be angry? One of the assaults on the soul of black America came in December of 2016, with the grand jury in Cleveland refusing to indict the police officers who shot and killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice. Within seconds, Tamir, holding a toy gun, was gunned down by a white police officer. He lay on the ground, and his sister, who was just 2 years older, wanted to go to his aid and ran towards him, but was roughed up and handcuffed by those same police officers and placed into the back of a police car. He was a child, for goodness sake, holding a toy gun in an open carry state. The police officer shot within seconds and asked questions later. And this has been the history of black people in law enforcement in this country for decades now. Why in the world would anyone think black people should not be angry? Anthony Ray Hinton, falsely accused and convicted of murder, spent 30 years in solitary confinement on death row. He said that when he was arrested, the officer told him he would be convicted, even though he, the police officer, admitted that Hinton had probably not committed the crime in which he was accused. Why would he be convicted? Hinton said the officer said, because you're being accused by a white man, because the prosecutor is white, because the judge will be white, because the jury will be white, and because the court-appointed attorney will be white. So some other reasons why black people may be angry. I'm just going to list a few for you. The first one is historical mistreatment. From being enslaved, Jim Crow laws, black codes, and other mistreatment that have had long-term devastating effects on black communities. The denial of existence of racism. When people pretend racism no longer existed because slavery, Jim Crow, and black codes were outlawed. The denial of responsibility. While none of us were directly involved in enslaving people, in Jim Crow laws, or black codes, we all may have had ancestors who may have contributed to those injustices. It is simply acknowledging that fact. The number of black and brown people incarcerated is ridiculous. The U.S. criminal justice system makes it so black and brown people face arrest, trial, and imprisonment for nonviolent crimes at a much higher rate. An example would be Anthony Ray Hinton that I spoke to you about earlier. His actual portrayal of his life was actually included in the movie Just Mercy and the book Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. If you haven't had an opportunity to see that movie or read that book, I would suggest that you do that. And I had an opportunity to hear him speak a few years ago about spending 30 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. So we find more and more that this has happened and this has occurred. And then we have unjustified character assassination. Emmett Till was a 14-year-old African American who was lynched in Mississippi in 1955 after being accused of offending a black woman in her family's grocery store. The brutality of his murder and the fact that his killers were acquitted drew attention to a long history of violent persecution of blacks in the United States. In fact, Carol Bryant, pictured here with Emmett Till, admitted on her deathbed that none of the things that she said before ever occurred. And so the death of Emmett Till happened, and he was innocent of any way of offending this woman in her family's grocery store. It never happened. And so we know stories like that happen all the time. And then unequal access or inequalities to things like unemployment, housing, wealth, and education. Unequal access to employment. The unemployment rate is twice as high than that of blacks' white counterparts. Unequal access to housing. Mortgage credit has exacerbated the racial wealth gap, and black kids are 4 times as likely to live in an impoverished neighborhood than others. And then we know there are income and wealth inequalities, and then education inequalities, because resources may be very different depending on the schools. Black parents have pushed through and found ways for their children to get a decent education in spite of despicable public schools in their neighborhoods. Black people have endured the humiliation of being sought to fight for this country and being denied basic rights once their service to this country was completed. Why in the world would black people not be angry? It is that black people are still being seen as subhuman with no capacity to feel pain. The mother and family of Tamir Rice were already devastated by the fact that he was killed by police for just being black, by being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was looked upon as a beast and not a child. Now, his family had to endure, as so many black parents have, the indignity of this system saying that his death was a result of justifiable force rendered by police. It's the same song black parents have heard for decades, from Emmett Till to Tamir Rice. Many black people feel the government has not ever protected them, and it is in fact, and that the government has in fact participated in thousands of lynchings over the years. It's passed laws that protect the right of white people to oppress black people. We know this from slavery to Jim Crow to black codes. So why is it a problem that black people are angry? I don't know that I think it is a problem. Maybe because of the systemic, institutionalized racism that so many black people still face today, that is why there's still a lot of anger. So I hope that this week you all have an opportunity to read about some of those things in Citizen Part 2 and Part 3, and just kind of think about them, and from your perspective, how you feel about those kind of things. I look forward to reading your responses to the discussion questions this week, and I hope you all have a terrific week.